I'm not caught up on One Piece.
Oh,
I will say this. My take is that the anime is garbage and that the manga is like way better. That's just my take.
you're
I
not
think,
wrong. No, you're not wrong.
there's this running joke about around me and my friends. We're like, I don't know if One Piece fans actually like One Piece or they just like consuming content.
Yeah, you might be right. That's not a bad joke. There might be some truth behind that.
What is good, guys? And you know what? Let me just get right into it. I am very excited to have this conversation with the very Jerry from the Uncensored Anime Podcast. What's good, Jerry?
Hello, what's up, Archie? Thanks for having me, man. I'm super excited to chat with you, man.
No problem. I didn't know whether to introduce you as the guy from the Uncensored Podcast or the guy that does Funko Pops. I'm like,
I'm all over the place. I'm the mind and creator behind 3 different brands at this point that I've tried to play around with and never really, I play around with all of it between my podcast and my manga collecting channel and then also my Funko Pop stuff. Like it's all part of me. It's all part of it. And I just, it's all blended together because I do a little bit of all of it on all of them. So I just kind of accepted like, that's just how it's going to be. So I'm all those things.
You know what's crazy? I got a friend right now that's kind of like you in terms of like they have so many interests and they want to do all of them on YouTube. But the problem is this dude puts them all under one channel, and I'm like, bro, please, like, can you focus on one thing on your one channel, and then that way because I think he's very talented. And I'm like, please, dude, just blow up and like follow the path so that because I want this guy to succeed so bad. I'm like, please, please.
That's crazy. No, yeah, I feel like one thing that people don't think about with YouTube, especially, is that people that watch YouTube, they don't. It's very rare that a person subs to a channel for like the personality or the person behind it. Oftentimes they sub to it for the type of content. So in order to build your audience, you have to be really cognizant of what type of content you're pushing out, because if you're just putting out variety content, it can be hard to like latch on to any of those audiences, and then you'll struggle to grow and you'll be concerned. But if you're able to find your niche and then publish content within that, I think that helps a lot. And I think that's why for me, when I sat down to do all of it, I didn't want to, I had a Funko Pop channel first. And I was like, okay, but then I kind of got over that. I didn't really want to make Funko Pop content anymore on YouTube. And instead of just trying to rebrand it, I made something different, which was my podcast channel, because I really wanted to just talk about anime, which was what I was more passionate about. So we did that. And then also when I started doing more manga collecting, that's when my wife and I kind of came up with our channel of doing more manga collecting. And it felt like, while maybe we could have pivoted one of those previous channels into something else, it just would have taken more time to try to make it work, because the interests were just so different. It's like if all of a sudden you're sub to a Funko Pop channel and then randomly they're posting manga content, you're not going to click in even if you're already subbed. So sometimes with YouTube, you just have to be cognizant of like what the audience is doing, because you can be super talented, but if you're not careful about that, like you can, it's tough to pivot. But you can do it. One of my good buddies, the Dark Sage Chase, his channel has pivoted directions like 3 or 4 times. And he's been able to kind of survive each rebrand majorly because he was able to establish more of a connection with his audience as a personality, as opposed to like a specific type of content. And I think that's the hardest. If you can get that down, then you can do whatever the hell you want. And I say that all the time. It's like, if you can, I hope I'm allowed to say, I can curse, right, Archie? You're not.
No, yeah, I don't care. Dude.
Oh, okay, good. So once you get that down, then you can pivot more frequently. And I think that makes more sense, because I mainly learned that from Chase, who definitely has been able to prove that you can pivot as long as people latch on to your personality or identity. But for people just starting out, I would always encourage them, if you try to, I think that if your friend is all over the place, try to hone in and pick something he's really passionate about, make that his content on his channel, and then go from there. And then if he wants to break out, do something else. But if he wants to make, one content, get the one he's passionate about. That's what I would always encourage.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm like not going super hard on him is like both of us are in the same like position where we're both not monetized. So it's like there's no point in really like, going super hard. Like it's not, there's no
small
point
enough
like,
you can still pivot.
Yeah. You're small enough where if you pivot, like there's not really like no harm, no foul. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But you did hit on something earlier that I really want to talk about this, because we are both married men.
Correct. Yeah.
It is not it is not something that you find easily in in our space of anime and manga and stuff like that. So, how long have you been married to your wife?
Yeah. Well, my wife and I just celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary. So
5 years.
We've been married for 5 years and together for almost 10. So we've been together for almost 10 years. So we met when we were in college. And she was a freshman, I was a sophomore. And we actually connected because of a lot of our shared interests. I think that's how we got to know each other. And just, I think for me, what it was all about, like finding someone who actually liked the same shit I did and like was into it. And I think that always has led to us having, just a fruitful and lasting relationship, is just because like we share all the same interests and we like all the same stuff and we're able to celebrate and do the things that we love together. And I think that's been like a major part of just being together as long as we have. But yeah, so it's like we got married like kind of, I wouldn't say it was young, but like it was kind of young, I guess. We got married when we were 23. I was 23. It was right after we finished school, pretty much. We got out of college and we just got married right out of college. And we were just like, yeah, this is the right time. We just didn't feel like it was worth waiting much longer. We felt pretty solid about it. So, but yeah, it was just,
well,
it happens, right?
Congrats. So I'm actually very new to the married game. I got married in April of this year.
Oh my God. Hey,
so
congrats. Congrats, Archie. Congrats to you and your wife. That's amazing.
Yeah,
newlyweds. That's awesome. Did you guys do something fun? Did you guys go somewhere for did you guys do any sort of fun things? Travel, anything?
We did the thing where we basically technically we've been married for more than a year because we did the thing where we went to the house first, and then we had the wedding.
That's cool.
So I mean, I guess technically we've been married for like a year and some change, but it's like it doesn't feel like that. You know what I mean? Because like it's just a piece of paper. Like whenever you do the court
absolutely thing. It felt more official when you did the ceremony, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so technically last year, you can call it a honeymoon. We went to Hawaii last year.
That's fun.
It was after we got the official paperwork or whatever. But after the actual wedding ceremony, we're kind of waiting till we get like our credit card points up so we can like go somewhere. You know what I mean? So we're like,
that's what you do.
Yeah. So you said you and your wife had similar interests, and so that means she was into anime and manga and stuff like whenever you guys met and everything.
Yeah, long before. Yeah, so I consider myself like a lifetime anime and manga fan. It's hard to like pinpoint when I like actually got into it, just because it's been such a major part of like everything since I was like a little kid. All of my memories track back to either watching anime or reading manga. I was the kid that was carrying his manga around when I was in elementary school. And that was just what I was into. I'd always been into anime and manga. I have 2 older brothers, and essentially they were already into it, before I was born. So by the time I was born, there were just, more situations, opportunities. So, but my wife, on the other hand, she had like an anime and manga phase. And that's something that I think is funny. She was like a Naruto kid. And I always, she has this photo from when she was really young, and she dressed up as Sasuke for some sort of anime convention when she was like in like elementary or middle school. But she said she phased out of it. There was this point in time when like going into high school and stuff, she like stopped watching anime and reading manga and stuff. But she was really heavy into it at one point, and it wasn't really until we met that she kind of got her like second wind. That's when she was like, well, I was really into it when I was a kid. I want to try watching more. And she is like the fastest reader I've ever met. Like she reads books and manga like. So I remember really early when we met, she was like, man, I remember loving Naruto as a kid. I should just read it. And like over winter break, she just like read the whole thing. And I was like, oh, you just read like all 700 chapters? She was like, oh yeah, I just knocked it out. And I was like, okay, cool, fantastic, whatever. It would take me months. I mean, I'm such a slow reader. So, but so she started binging all of it. And she also had never, I'll never forget. So when we met, she had never watched One Piece at all. And that was like a travesty for me because I was like a One Piece for like, I'd been watching and reading One Piece like weekly for like 10 years at that point when we met.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, One Piece was like, my whole life. So I was like, oh, baby, you got to watch it. Like, you got to give it a shot. So she starts binging it. Finally, it took her a long time. She was slow playing it. So it probably took 3 or 4 years. No, she was watching the whole thing.
She watched the anime.
She watched it, yeah. So and at the time, it was just the numbers were just getting up there 700, 800. I was like, oh, baby, you got to get into it now. finally she binge. I think she caught up right as Whole Cake Island was starting in the anime. So she finally caught up to when Whole Cake Island started in the anime. She switched to the manga and then started reading from the Whole Cake Island up to present. So she's caught up now. She's been caught up for a while now. And then we started watching the anime together at that point because she caught up. And then we watch it together now. But we're a little bit behind on the anime. We obviously skipped ahead to watch Gear 5. But I think we last watched around episode 1,000. So we have 60, 70 episodes we need to catch up on. But we usually watch the anime and read the new chapter together every week.
Okay, so you are reading it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Oh, once we caught up, we never don't read it. We read it every week. That's a no questions. I have not. Was there a new chapter today? I actually read today's chapter though.
I'm not caught up on One Piece. I will say this. My take is that the anime is garbage and that the manga is way better. That's just my take.
You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong.
It's just I can't. Yeah. I dropped the anime around Ennis Lobby, and I picked up the manga. I'm super slow at One Piece because I know myself. I'm gonna burn myself out if I just try to force myself to, and there's this running joke around me and my friends. We're like, I don't know if One Piece fans actually like One Piece or they just like consuming content.
No, I honestly, yeah, you might be right. That's not a bad joke. There might be some truth behind that. I feel like it's weird because when you're a lifelong fan, I started watching it and reading it. When I caught up to One Piece, there was less than 300 episodes. And when I started catching up, there was probably closer to 200. Gear 2 had just been revealed. I remember that was one of the things that got me hyped about catching up is because I was I really want to read this, and I was really into the early parts of it. And I remember seeing clips of Gear 2 on YouTube and thinking, I got to catch up on this gets hype. And I remember thinking, I got to get caught up. And I caught up. When I caught up, Thriller Bark had just started in the anime. No, it had just ended in the anime. So the anime had just completed Thriller Bark. So I caught up, and there must have only been 300 something episodes at that point, and never looked back. I've been reading it and watching I pretty much have never gotten more than a couple, a little bit behind. Manga especially, I've always tried to read the chapter every week. So it's weird that I've essentially read it every week for 15 years or something at this point, a long ass time. And that's just how One Piece, I don't know, but I love One Piece. Maybe more so than some of these. It's tough because there's so many new fans that have gotten into the show recently, and it's tough to kind of mash through it because it's a longtime fan. There are lots of critical things that I've thought about with One Piece, theories, all this stuff, and now all these new fans are jumping in and adding all this new content, new thought processes, but then also there's a lot of negativity that's come from it. A lot of new fans have come in with hideous takes. I mean, just absolute garbage takes on the series, and just no respect for the amount of work and effort that's been given. Oda been churning this shit out for years, dog. Nobody does it like Oda. I mean, he's just the absolute GOAT. So I just I have so much respect for Oda and for the series that I can be critical of the series and not be foolish. And I think that's the biggest thing is that a lot of these new fans, they just come in without much real critical lens at all. They just be coming in saying shit without really thinking about what they're saying or how they're saying it or what their thought process is. It's very concerning and confusing. Makes me question the literacy of some of these young people who are jumping in on this series. But I always hesitate. But it's always good. I think that you're smart that you're taking it chunk at a time because you're going to digest it better. And if you take it slow, I think you're going to have a more long-term investment in it. You're going to think better about the series. But I do think the manga is the superior product. I just think that's the way to consume it at this point. I just think the anime has the Toei is just not concerned about creating a quality product as much as they are just concerned about creating a product. Yeah, they're just trying to put something out. And that's just the way it is. So I think there's good and bad from that. But I watch the anime and read the manga. Like I said, I'm only probably 60, 70 episodes behind. That's just because life caught up with me over the last year. And haven't been able to watch recently. But I have never, I've kept up with the manga no matter what. And that's just because in the latest arc is absolute heat. Everything post Wano has been absolute, just fantastic. Oh my God. Oda's, he's in the end game for real. So I don't know.
I feel like I should come clean with my One Piece things. I think I think One Piece is good, right? The manga at least. I think the One Piece manga is good, but I don't know if it's. I'm pretty sure this is just me, but I just don't connect or vibe with the Straw Hats that much. In my opinion. Like I just something about it. It might be time and place.
That's interesting.
Too, because I remember watching One Piece as a kid, and then like I just didn't continue it, and then I picked it back up later on in life, and it was at the height of like people just hyping up One Piece like crazy, and it's like I'm reading One Piece, I'm like, I think the story's good, but I really just don't like, mess with the characters that much, and it might be because I was older, and like a lot of people grew up with like Luffy and Zoro and all of them, so they feel like they're growing up with them, whereas for me, I'm like, these guys are just goofy as hell, like, and I don't really like, and I don't know how I feel about them. And later on, I'm like, I see why people like them, but for some reason, like you just can't force loving something. You know what I mean? It's like like objectively, One Piece is a good story and very well written, but it has to speak to you in some way, like to your soul and to your heart, where it's like it just doesn't do that for me. I don't know why. And
I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and so whenever speaking of the One Piece fandom, whenever I tweet out or like say my opinion about like, I just don't like any of the Straw Hats. Like 2 people told me to kill myself.
What's wrong with you? What the hell?
Oh man, and it's like, I'm like, dang, over One Piece, bro. Like you act like I beat up your family or something. Like, all right, bro. Like
they do be feeling it. I think absolutely that you hit on a good point in that like. It's way different when you've grown up with it. When like I said, when I first started reading and watching One Piece, I was like 10 years old. And I think that was a big part of it. And I've essentially grown up with the series. And I think for a lot of us, that's why the current stuff is working better for us, because Oda's realized, I think, that the series had to kind of age with its audience a little bit. And if you're, in publication for as long as he's been, you start to recognize like you want to change the themes up, make things a little more adult. But he didn't really start doing that, in my opinion, until the Paramount War arc, and then until some of the post time skip arcs. You have a lot more thematic. He plays around with themes a lot more, and I think that didn't really happen until the later half. But also, I think that as an adult, like I definitely don't connect with the main cast as much. I think you start to connect more with the auxiliary characters, and Oda has been able to work in later in the series more time with some of these the side characters, because I think he's recognized that there's value that these characters give. I mean, certain characters like Doflamingo that becomes very fleshed out, or Law who becomes.
But I heard so many good things.
Yeah, Doflamingo or Law who become these much more well-rounded characters. I mean, even Odin from the most recent arc, just a little bit more of an adult. There's more of an adult theme with some of those characters, and that's why a lot of us older fans have latched on to some of those side characters. We become. It's like I consider my favorite characters literally like Nico, Robin, and Law, and that's because I think it's because their age and because their experiences and because their characterizations. As an adult, I feel much more connected to those characters, and I think that if you're a fan of the series and you're in your teens, you probably love Luffy and Zoro and Sanji. Those are all, and I know I don't want to spoil it completely, but I'm sure you know a little bit. But obviously, Whole Cake gives Sanji like a whole new dimension that you didn't have with Sanji for 700 chapters, and I think that's huge. It's like for a character to just go 700 chapters being a lot more one note, and then to suddenly have a huge developmental moment this late in the series. I thought that was a big play by Oda to be able to say like, hey, these characters are aging with you guys and are learning with you guys and learning with the audience, but it's just different types. So I think that as you go along and you get deeper into it, you'll start to realize some of that too. You'll start to see, but I do think that makes it tough for new fans that are older to start from the beginning. I do think getting through some of that early, like very standard shonen, there are just certain tropes that come along with shonen manga that I think in the early era, that's kind of what Oda was doing, was just sort of upholding some of those tropes and kind of maintaining them. He wasn't really challenging them and working with them, and I think that he's evolved with the magazine as much as the series inside of it. If you think about what was in the magazine in the 2000s, things like Shaman King, things like Bleach and Naruto, which are running right by it. Those early, things like Bobobo, they're just those early era 2000s. He was matching that aesthetic, and as things evolved into things like JJK and Chainsaw Man, all of a sudden Oda's running in the same magazine as those two series, and that's a whole different. It's a whole different vibe that he had to kind of capture in order to maintain popularity. Honestly, so I think you just see that evolve as he evolves and as the series evolves. But so I do think later in the series you'll go, oh damn, like there's a lot more going on here. There's a lot more depth. There's a lot more character play. But it is tough. I can only imagine what it would feel like if I did never watch One Piece and I had to start at the very beginning. I don't know what I would. I'm not sure what I would feel, to be honest. I don't know what I would feel as an adult. So I don't know.
It's people keep telling me like, don't let the fan base like sway you or whatever, like don't let them get to it. But it's like it's so hard when you're like it's all in your, like we're in an age where it's all in your face, you know what I mean? Like and people like will always say something. People will always like if you just don't agree with the majority of people, like you're just like you're gonna get shitted on like that. It is it is what it is, and it's interesting that you say like Sanji gets development later on, and it's like for me right now, it's really hard for me to see myself liking Sanji and Usopp. Like it's just really hard for me to see that. I'm like, I really just don't like these guys. Like I really don't. Like I'm just like, people like these guys. I'm like, no, like I don't get it. Like I really don't. But if you say later on they get more development, maybe I'll understand. Well, who knows?
I'll vouch for Sanji, but I'm not vouching for Usopp. Oda needs to play with him more, dude. Usopp, I think, is probably one of the most. I'd say he's one of the most hated characters in the Straw Hats because Oda has essentially abandoned him. To be honest, he's a very he becomes even more auxiliary as the series goes on, to where he essentially is comic relief to some degree. And at that point, like, what are you doing with a character like that? But Oda did surprise, I think, a lot of us with what he did with Sanji in Whole Cake Island. Is people forget it already because Wano's been so long at this point. People forget how much work Oda did with Sanji in that arc, and it's a really impressive arc, to be honest, in my opinion. And I think looking back, and if you go back and binge that arc, there's a lot of great stuff in Whole Cake Island. But some people have the weird, like, there's just this weird. I think a lot of people caught up during Whole Cake Island and then had to read it weekly, and they just weren't prepared for that. But if you go back and binge Whole Cake, you'll see some of the. Well, for you, it'll be the first time you go through it. You'll see that I think it's a lot better than people gave it credit, because a lot of people had just caught up and they were like, I think they were more critical because they had never consumed One Piece like on a weekly basis yet. They had never seen what that felt like. So the pacing and some of the stuff kind of threw people off. But they just hadn't, they were so used to binging it that it was new to them. But I will say Whole Cake set this weird standard of like Oda makes every arc freaking long, because Whole Cake was incredibly long for no reason, I think. And Wano as well. I think a lot of people question his pacing choices in those series, or in those arcs, but we'll see.
Pacing's a huge thing for me, man. Like I don't know what it is, but it's like, so One Piece, you're right. It is slow. But I understand why it's slow, but as a preference thing, I would prefer if you went faster. And then there are other shows / manga like JJK where I'm like, it's too fast. I'm like, this is too fast. I'm like literally, I was complaining to my boy RJ about how like we both think that flashback arc that happened in this season. We're like, dude, we like literally spoilers for JJK, by the way, for anyone watching
for season 2. Okay, I'm caught up on season 2 of the anime.
Okay, yeah. So, whenever like Rico died, it was just shock factor, and we're like, "Wait, who the fuck was she?" Like this is like the grandpa all over again in season 1. We're like, he's dying in the first episode. We're like, who is this guy? Like who? Like why should you care? You know what I mean? And it's like, JJK is just one of those things where I am cool with the anime so far. I think it's enjoyable, great fight scenes, pretty animation. I don't care about some of like I like all these emotional moments. I'm just I don't really care like that. You know what I mean? And it's
right.
But it's just one of those things where I need it at a certain level for me to really enjoy it.
Right.
Like
I guess JJK is very fast paced. It definitely has some moments where it is. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I've only watched the anime, but I am caught up. So I watched I think they're on like a break now at this point or something. Yeah, the 5 episodes for season 2.
Yeah, they said till August 31st or something like that.
Jesus
I was like,
Christ. That's why are they doing us like this? Yeah,
I don't
doing
know.
us dirty. But I like this little flashback arc, but only because I finally have a reason to give a shit about Geto's character, which to me, I was like, at the end of season 1, I remember thinking to myself, like, why do I care about this dude? Or like, why is he the villain? Like, what, a lot of his motivations hadn't really been properly revealed. A lot of his setup wasn't properly there. This arc finally gave him like something, it gave him a reason for being why he is. And it kind of set him up as like the opposition to Gojo's philosophy and perspective as well. But also showed some cracks in Gojo's armor, which I liked. So for very little, for the two of them, I liked this arc a lot. For everyone else, I was a little more middled about, but yeah.
I think I was just I think I'm spoiled in terms of good flashback stories, because in my opinion, I didn't think that was a good flashback story, because I think I didn't learn much new stuff, because I already knew Geto was gonna
he becomes a bad guy. Like there's no way around that. Like
I already knew he was gonna become a bad guy. I already knew we knew from the first season he was racist towards humans. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
We already knew that. And I wanted them to really go into his psychological of going into why he turned, and it's but it's okay, one episode, what is that gonna do for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. It was almost not enough. I got what you're getting at.
Yeah, and it's I'm a huge Bungo Stray Dogs fan.
Okay, so I've never tried it. That's one that I've never tried. I have volume 1. I've never tried it.
They do flashback stories so well. What got me into Bungo Stray Dogs was a flashback arc. That's
really wow.
So here's my thing: when you're going to Bungo Stray Dogs, whether if you read it or watch it, whatever, I watched.
Is the anime preferred? Do people like the anime better? I bought volume 1 a while ago, because I wanted to give it a shot, but I have not read or watched it. But what would you suggest, Archie? Do I read or watch it? What do I do?
You know what's crazy is that there are barely any of us Bungo Stray Dogs fans that are even remotely vocal online. So right. I can't even tell you if the manga is good or not.
Okay.
So,
but you like the anime a lot.
I do like the anime a lot, but this is my warning for everyone. And I'm glad someone warned me about this before I started. Season 1 is painfully mid. Painfully mid.
Wow.
So get through. So just you kind of have to get through 12 episodes of this kind of It's a seinen, but season 1 feels like a generic shonen.
Interesting.
Okay, but season 2, the very beginning of season 2, you get a flashback arc, and it was it was so good that I literally at that moment I was like, all right, I'm watching all of Bungo Stray Dogs right now, and then I caught up to where because season 4 and 5 came out this year. I caught up to where literally the week after I finished Bungo Stray Dogs, season 4 started. And to me, this year, season 4 and 5 of Bungo Stray Dogs has been honestly the best anime experience I've had this year. I'm wow. Because how it works is I think Bungo Stray Dogs does do what One Piece does in terms of every single character has some type of story. No one really gets left behind. And now you notice the experiences of all those characters are starting to converge into this one huge thing that's happening. And it's huge, huge in scale, but it all came together so well. And so, and I'm this makes sense. Why it's coming together like this. So I'm as a Bungo Stray Dogs fan, season 5 is going on right now. I am having the time of my life, man. I'm telling you.
That's dope.
Whoo, man. That's
awesome. Is the manga completed, or is it still going, or is everything? I don't even know anything about what it. I'm curious now. I bet it's still going. I bet.
It says it's still going. The manga.
Oh yeah, Wikipedia says it's still going. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't even know. Yeah.
So you might be getting new seasons for a long time ahead.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I actually don't know how Bungo Stray Dogs is getting new seasons because no one talks about it. I'm
I agree. Nobody talks about it. I'm
no one talks. I'm this has to be a Japanese thing. Because,
absolutely.
It has to be. And for anyone wants a show that's underrated, Bungo Stray Dogs is severely underrated.
Interesting. Okay.
It's my favorite.
I'm gonna watch it.
It's my favorite seinen anime right now.
Damn. I'm gonna watch it and report back. I'm gonna message you and be like, Archie, I've been watching it.
Yeah. And I specifically said anime though. In terms of manga, I can't say because
you can't speak.
I can't speak on that because what is it? Berserk's a great manga, and all those other seinen mangas or whatever. I just honestly I'm having a better time watching Bungo Stray Dogs than Vinland Saga personally. That's just a me thing, bro.
That is a tough as hell call, Archie. You laying some waste right there, because Vinland was one of my favorite shows I watched this year. To be honest, the newest season was.
It's all hype. I think hype played into it. You know what I mean? We're like, look, don't get me wrong. I think Vinland Saga is good. I really think it's good and it's great. For what it does. But I think it's because it got hyped up so much that I was expecting a lot. That I was like,
got you.
It was a good story, but something's not hitting. I don't know. Like, and but with Bungo Stray Dogs, zero hype, like no hype at all. And I realized, man, this is a great story. Like, this is great. Besides season 1.
Interesting. Okay.
That was.
So did you watch all of season 2 of Vinland Saga? Did you get through it, or did you? Okay. And I guess for me, like, and obviously I haven't watched Bungo Stray Dogs, but Vinland was probably my favorite. It may be my favorite show I watched, and I watched season 1 back when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. But by no means was it like my favorite series. You know what I mean? Like, I think season 1 I liked. And I liked it kind of as it was coming out, and a lot of people weren't really still talking about it. Slowly, Vinland Saga kind of built some major hype between season 1 and 2. So I did get a lot of people kind of hyping it up, talking about it. Farmland Saga. But I went into it completely blind. I didn't really have any conception of like what it was going to be. And for me, I think it was the subversion of the initial concept of Vinland Saga that actually worked really well. And that's only because I think that as an anime watcher, I oftentimes am not looking for. I don't always look for like the hypest action or like the most slick animation. I think sometimes I'm into it for the characters and for what it means and why characters do things, and character motivations and themes are like my major things when something can work really well. And you can do that with action and it can work really well. So when I got into Vinland Saga season 2, it was like the subversion of those action tropes that actually like worked for me. So I was watching it each week, just thinking like, wow, this is not about what the first season was about at all. Exactly. And now all of a sudden we're doing something totally different. So I was really drawn in, and I think that Thorfinn is genuinely one of the better protagonists in a series, just because very often you have to watch someone reconcile with the damage that they've caused other human beings, and to watch him try to work through that and like really think through it and become critical of his own actions. I think it was really awesome. But I think, sadly, the fan base did kind of ruin it, because people that are Vinland Saga fans, like, just, I don't think they even comprehended like what they were trying to push, or like even really gave a shit about that depth of character writing. And they hyped it up in a way that made it seem like it was hype in a different way. So I kind of get what you're getting at, because like, the discourse around Vinland Saga season 2 was freaking weird. And I don't think it was at all reflective of what the season actually was. And I think that because of that, we ended up with like and I blame kids. I think kids are just, they get into shit and they just be talking shit with nobody checks them, and they just talk stuff. And then Twitter's weird. I don't know why I get a lot of discourse from Twitter for anime, and anime discourse on Twitter is messed up, or X or whatever the hell it is. It's terrible, Archie. I hate it.
It's so bad. With Vinland Saga, right? I complained a lot about pacing, and I think it's because I watched it weekly. I remember I tested this where after it was all done, season 2, I went back and watched the first 4 episodes binging. It was way better. Way better. Yes. And I was like,
that makes sense.
Because and I feel like if I wasn't watching it weekly, I would think more highly of it. But you were not about to binge all of Vinland Saga season 2, be on the internet and not be spoiled. You know what I mean? That was impossible.
Exactly. I had to watch it weekly too. I was like, I couldn't. I was too worried. Honestly, I was like, I'm just gonna have to watch this as it comes out. But it's. I think you make a good point about the binge model, though. There are certain shows that really benefit from it, and Vinland would definitely be one of those that you'll benefit from going back and watching it all the way through. So that's tough. Now I want to watch Bungo Stray Dogs. Now that's all I want to do. I'm gonna leave this call and like immediately go. That's gonna be my Sunday afternoon activity. Yeah.
Remember what I said? Season 1, painfully mid. I know.
Power through it. That's
power through it. I get it. It feels so generic. I know, but trust me, when you get to season 2, you'll think otherwise. I promise.
Okay. I love that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyways, one thing I'm actually very, very interested in to talk to you about, because Funko Pops. What's up with your obsession with Funko Pops? Like, I see,
you're funny.
I see it everywhere on your Twitter, and like, and I'm just like, I see it on your wall and everything. I'm like, what's up?
Yeah, the wall of the true wall back there. I literally have the wall.
How did this start? You know, like what was the decision for?
Honestly,
you know what I mean?
My first Funko Pop was a gift. It must have been like 2014 or 2013, something like that. And I remember I didn't know what they were at the time, because I think they only came out. I want to say the first wave of Pops was like 2010 or 2011, if I remember correctly. So this must have been, pretty shortly after they started doing them. And some students that I worked with at the time, I was like an upperclassman. I had some underclassmen that I was mentoring. They gifted me a Groot Funko Pop from Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't even really like Guardians of the Galaxy that much, but they gifted me a Groot. And I was like, this is cool. I'm into comics and stuff, and I thought that was really dope. So I put it on my desk, and I thought it was cute and fun. Didn't think anything of it. I ripped the box right open and just put the figure on the desk. Didn't think it was worth anything. Threw all the stuff away. And then I think within the next year, I had a mentor who knew I was a big Green Lantern fan. And she got me a little Green Lantern one too. And I was like, oh, these are both really cool. And again, just ripped the box right open, put them on my desk. So I had a Green Lantern and a Groot on my desk for like 2 or 3 years. Didn't think anything of it. But then in grad school, I started to kind of toy with the idea of like getting a couple more. I was like, oh, these are really cute. I didn't realize they made certain characters. And I realized they made Law from One Piece at that time. And I was like, oh, I want to get that one. So I went and I bought Law. And I think I bought Steven Universe. And I think I bought Marceline from Adventure Time. So I had seen those at some sort of something. So I had 5 now. I had 5 Funko Pops. I think I also bought John Stewart, the other Green Lantern, because I saw him. So I had 6 Funko Pops. Had them in a little stack on my desk. Thought they were cute and cool. Didn't think of it. When I graduated from school, I honestly just had so much free time. I graduated college. I was like, man, what am I going to do with all my free time? And I realized that I thought these things were really cute. And I was like, is there like more to them? And I'll never forget it. Someone posted on like social media a picture of Broly from the, OG Broly from the Broly movie. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I thought it was weird because it had the sticker on it. And the sticker said like Comic-Con or something on it. San Diego Comic-Con. At the time, I was like, what does this mean? And someone explained to me that Funko would do these like Comic-Con exclusives, but they would actually be sold at like all these stores with like a different sticker. And you could go buy it at Hot Topic or GameStop. And I was like, well, that's kind of unique. I was like, they have like exclusive stores. And I had never known anything about that. So I went out and I found Broly. And that was just kind of like a fun thing to do. This was like 2018. I was like, cool, I found Broly. That's cool. And then all of a sudden I bought a couple more and then a couple more. And then about 2 or 3 months later, I had like 40 of these things. Jeez. And I was like, gosh, I was like, oh Lord. I was like, what am I doing? And I thought, you know what? If I buy any more, I'll just start like posting them on Instagram. And originally I was going to post them like on my personal Instagram, but something kind of came to me and I was like, what if I just made my own Instagram for like my Funko Pops? Because I wanted to start following like some pages that were doing it. So that's when I came up with the name Jerry's Got Pops, just because I thought it was quick and easy and whatever. So I came up with this name. I made Jerry's Got Pops. I made the Instagram page. I made the Twitter page. And I just started posting. Originally, I made it just to post pictures of my Funko Pops. Like, that's the only reason I made Twitter and Instagram at all. So I was like, oh, I'm going to keep buying a couple more here and there. And honestly, Archie, I think it just exploded from there. I started getting really connected with like different people in the community. Once I made like a page, a lot of other like Funko Pop accounts started reaching out to me. I started learning more about like the technical stuff, that there were really rare ones, and I started to realize there was like a lot of almost like gamification of some of the collectible of it. It's like when there are sets and there are sets that have 30 pops, hunting and finding all those for a good price. That was like almost like there was a gamification part going on. And I really dug that. There was something unique to me about that versus just like buying a statue or a figure, which usually those are just released as like one-offs or whatever. Yeah. Maybe they're part of a line, but usually they're for $70, $80. But Pops, you can find them for $5 or $6. So I just started buying the ones I liked. I started with anime stuff. It was mainly like anime and like cartoons and DC and Marvel. I started there and just slowly expanded. And honestly, over the last 5 years, I've just gotten so involved, mainly in the community of people, that I've come to really, as much as I do love still collecting myself. Obviously, I have, I think, a little over 1,600 Pops. And I will never stop probably collecting them. I think what I've really enjoyed the most is actually just the people that are behind it all. You know, I think that the people that you meet through collecting anything or doing anything or being interested in anything is just such a more powerful. It's just awesome. You know, whether it's being a fan of anime and manga, being a fan of cartoons, comics, whatever it is, you meet all these people that are like-minded, of similar interests. And I really liked that. And I liked the whole community aspect of Funko, which they wanted people to just like, you know, they're a very exciting company. They like to host events. They like to have a lot of exclusives. They have all these little things. And I genuinely think that the anime figures in particular have just gotten incredible. I think that what they can pull off with the lack of size and detail they have has really gotten really cool. And it's mainly because there's a lot of really talented artists that have come to work at Funko that are doing this stuff. And I've even had the pleasure of getting to know one of their anime artists really well via Instagram. And he's just a wonderful guy, a massive anime fan, you know, a lifelong anime fan. And he's just, you know, living his dream job designing anime Funko Pops. And I think that that's just such a cool component to that as well. And I obviously respect him and respect his art a lot. So I really like being able to support him and buy the anime figures. I think that it's just become a community thing and a community building thing. I've been in so many different like Funko. I used to be a Funko Collector Society member. I was part of the Funko Dojo. Yeah, crazy. I was wow. I'm still a moderator on the Funko subreddit. You know, it's all just it's about community, and I think community building. And you know, in my local community, like here in Dallas, I go to a lot of Funko events. I go to anything, you know, releases, and you get to meet people through. I'm in a ton of Facebook groups that are like local groups as well as national groups of just people who collect. I think there's just an element to that. And then even like getting to go to events like San Diego Comic-Con, you just start to really connect and meet people. And I think that that's really the coolest part about it for me, because there's just an element to that. And I just don't think there's really any collectible in the market that fills that need the same way. There's a sort of unilateralness of Funko Pops that works for me. There's and I think some people might hate the designs, but I think the look of the way that they can all be in the same packaging, in the same product look, but to all be different characters and still to have distinct features, that takes a lot of creativity and a lot of design work. And I think over time they've really embraced that as a company. I do think that poorly enough, the damn company is kind of ass backwards, to be honest. They have made a lot of piss poor decisions. They've done a lot of crappy things to a lot of people that they shouldn't have. And I have a lot of negative opinions about some of their choices as a company, but I think that they create a product that I still really like. And I think that the creatives that have worked on that product are the ones that I really respect, and I have kept me in the game. Like, I wouldn't have kept doing it if I didn't really respect the artists and the sculptors and the modelers that have put in a lot of effort to create these things. The packaging design people, those are the people I really respect. The business people that work at Funko, they're shitheads, and they need to hear that, because they've made a lot of bad decisions, a lot of critically bad decisions that have led to people losing their jobs, losing their livelihood. And just recently they laid off another 180 people because of just poor management and poor decision making as a company. So I don't know. It's a hard thing to continue to support, because you don't want to put money in those guys' pockets. But I just love the artists and the creatives behind it so much that I have continued to support the company. So sorry, that was a long as hell answer. I did not mean that to be that long, but good.
It's just you know, I'm just like, man, how does one really like have the wall of Funko Pops? I'm like, this is kind of crazy, man. I'm like, I have a couple of them, but it's I don't have clearly enough for a wall, so I'm like, wow, this is crazy, man.
I don't expect many people to have to have gone into it as much as I have. This has just become a really hobby and something I really am passionate about. But I think the cool thing about Funko is that it also hits on so many. They're so good at creating products that have never been made before. Figures of characters that just will never get character figures outside of Pop. And I think that is important, because it allows people who are really not collectors to have a representation of something they're passionate about, or to just have some character of that they otherwise couldn't represent, to show people, they're supportive of the fandom or of the property. And I think that's really cool. That it's just a thing that only Funko can do, I think, because of the way that they have established themselves as a brand.
Have you been to the huge Funko Pop store in LA? I've been there once.
I have.
You have?
Well, yeah.
Shoot, I honestly went into that place like hella overwhelmed. I'm like, yo,
Really?
like what? I don't. What do I buy? I'm like, yo, I'm like looking
You're
through stuff. I'm like,
oh.
I can't take all. I can't take everything back to Dallas.
No,
So
yeah. I've
figure
only
it
been
out.
once, and it was really cool. I think that they have. I don't know. I think it's just a really cool experience as well as like a retail store, which is kind
Yeah,
of a cool concept. Like just having like a retail store that's also like there's places you can take photos and giant Funko Pops and like all this stuff that you can look at and stuff. So I don't know. It's cool in its own right, but that's cool that you've been.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to hit on is you went to San Diego Comic-Con this year,
Uh,
and we did have a small interaction about like what was it like and like your but like I want to
right.
hear from you like for the people too, like what was it like going to San Diego Comic-Con, especially with the stuff that's going on right now with both the writers and the actors strike. And I'm just like
Oh
curious, very
yeah. Oh,
curious.
that's such a yeah. That's so. This was my second year going, and I kind of decided a while ago that I wanted to start going to San Diego Comic Con because it was such a big part of not just Funko but just collectors and creators. It was such a cool thing, and I go to so many local cons. I was like, I need to go. So I remember back in 2019, I decided I wanted to go. Blah blah blah. It didn't happen because I bought tickets for 2020, and then it got pushed
Oh,
back, and then it got pushed back again. So I went in 2022, and then I went again in 2023. And this year was a lot different than 2022, to be honest.
okay,
Um, and it was different because the main consensus was that pretty much no actors were allowed to promote new products, new projects. And so a lot of them just went ahead and canceled their appearances within like 2 weeks leading up to the con, right? Like it
right,
wasn't until like 2 weeks before that a lot of them started canceling. So that was pretty disappointing, I think. If you're a fan of, if you're attending Comic Con for certain groups of people or like certain appearances, this would have been a really tough year for you because
right,
pretty much all of the actors that were coming to promote any sort of think about like The Boys has a new season. I believe the whole lineup of actors and producers were going to come and do a big thing for that. All of the Marvel projects generally have representation. So
yeah,
obviously this year they probably would have had people from Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson to
yeah,
Brie Larson. Most likely would have been there because of the projects that are coming out. It wouldn't have surprised me if Tom Hiddleston had been lined up to come. Marvel's usually pretty secretive about which actors they bring out, but
right.
Marvel canceled their panel like a month before the con.
Oh, just the
Um,
entire panel, like
which
in general.
yeah, they just canceled
Oh
it completely.
wow.
Marvel said we're just not coming at all.
Oh
And I
wow.
thought that was wild because I think it's like the first time Marvel has not had their main panel in like over 10 years, which is a bad, I mean, not a bad sign, but it just sucks for the fans because there are definitely people who go to San Diego Comic Con to get into that panel. That used to be
Just
like
for
one
that.
of them. I remember in 2022, the line to even just get, I mean, the insanity to get into that room because it's only like 7,000 seats and there's like 130,000 people. So to get into that room to see the Marvel panel live was a major, major component of San Diego Comic Con. Totally gone. Same thing happened with DC. They usually have a panel. Didn't show up at all. No James Gunn,
Okay.
no DC Studios, no representation from them at all.
Maybe
They
Beetle.
would have that, and I think that was wild. So what we saw this year was a major shift towards retail. And I was majorly in the retail floor my first year anyway, because I really did go to buy stuff. That's
Hmm.
part of why I love being at Comic Con. And it doesn't mean that I was able to attend some really cool panels last year. Like the whole cast of What We Do in the Shadows was at my first year, but obviously they didn't come back this year, which is a bummer. But it's the way it is. It was just the way that this was. But the way they made up for it, which I thought was interesting, is that they had a lot of legacy panels. So they brought in some older actors that weren't promoting any specific product or project,
Uh-huh.
and had them do panels. So like Jamie Lee Curtis, who's really well known, obviously for like the Halloween franchise,
Hmm.
as well as she's in the new Haunted Mansion movie. She went ahead and did a panel. She couldn't talk about Haunted Mansion. She couldn't talk about any other projects she's working on. But she was able to be there to talk about her legacy and her past. So that was really cool. I think William Shatner did a similar panel.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so they did still have some really big names. But I think what really was cool to me was the fact that they had two major mangaka there, and they hadn't done that before. And it makes me hope that San Diego Comic Con will continue to bring in one or two major mangaka. Which this year they had Junji Ito, and he
Oh
became
wow.
like a major part of the con because in the middle of the con floor, Viz had a massive Junji Ito themed booth. So his art was all over the place. There was exclusive prints, all the stuff you could buy for Junji Ito. But then also on the second floor of the hotel, there was an entire Junji Ito art exhibit with original manga artwork from Junji Ito on display, which was incredibly cool.
Sick and gross at the same time.
Yeah, sick, exactly. And then obviously he did panels and did a signing event as well. I didn't get to go to his panel or his signing event, which is kind of a bummer, but I did get to go through the art exhibit, and I thought it was amazing. They did a really great job. The signing event was one of the most popular. They said that it was one of the most popular of the con, getting Junji Ito's signature, which makes sense to me because he's major. I mean, he's big time. And then obviously my wife and I got the pleasure to meet the creator of Vinland Saga. And that was that was huge. And he retweeted us, which blew my mind because it ended up getting a ton of interactions on Twitter. So, but it was awesome to meet him. We recorded the whole interaction. What an outstanding, humble human being, honestly, like just a wonderful fella. And he sat and talked to me and my wife for a while. He signed all of our stuff. That was so cool. And we got so lucky because that was actually selected through a lottery. So we had to enter get picked, and we got picked to meet him. So he was a tough one. He was a very popular part of it as well. And Kodansha's whole booth was themed around Vinland Saga as well. So they had, like the new 3-in-1s that they're putting out of Vinland Saga. They had those on display. They're like leather bound, similar to the Berserks. And they had a lot of Vinland Saga, like a present thing inside their booth, which I thought was super cool. But then obviously Makoto Yukimura also did a panel that was packed out. Yeah. So I think that if the con shifts to having more people like that, I think that it could be awesome. I don't think that San Diego Comic-Con will ever just be, it's Comic-Con, but it's a general Comic-Con, which means that there's gaming people, there's movie. I mean, like one of the big panels were the creators of the new Spider-Man 2 video game. So I think that was really cool for people who went to that. But because of that, like that panel would have never gotten a highlight in a normal Comic-Con year. Like the video game for Spider-Man would not have been a highlight. But because all the actors and everyone left, some of the creators in those different and unique spaces got to be highlighted more, which I thought was actually a cool way to twist it and to go in that direction. Then, I thought doing the legacy panels was really smart because obviously you can't get, you can't get your Tom Hiddleston to come, but if you can get Jamie Lee Curtis and William Shatner to come to a panel, those are also just major names that are part of nerddom that you can focus on. So I think it was awesome. And the only thing that stressed me out was that because sometimes the panels were lacking, the show floor, the actual shopping hall, was like butt to balls, Archie. Like I'm talking like we were packed in that thing. Like we was packed.
Like anime expo style, like just
and it's because like everybody who was there, that it was the only thing to do. So people were just in the hall trying to shop. But I heard that they many of the retailers reported record profits. This is one of the best years ever. A lot of them brought incredible exclusives that they otherwise wouldn't have brought. They went all in on making sure they had exclusives for their booths. So my wife and I bought so many cool exclusives across the board that were things we could only buy at Comic-Con. And the hall was just so packed. People were so nice too. I think it was just, there was so much focus on that. So I think it was different, but there were some really big positives that came from that change. And I think it'll be back to normal next year. I don't expect, I hope the strike doesn't last over a year. And that we're able to get some norming back. And I think that the Comic-Con will go back to having the major Marvel, the major DC, the big panels. But it really just depends how the industry keeps shaking out. But I do think that if they keep some of this stuff, like bringing in mangakas, doing legacy panels, focusing on the show floor, I think those are things that could be major revenue boosters as well as in attendance. I mean, attendance it's already incredibly hard to go to San Diego Comic-Con. They have a massively ridiculous process to get tickets. So I think that in the future, like if they keep this up, it's just going to continue to rise that prestige of the con. Even though it's already very prestigious, I think it'll just keep going up. But I liked it. I had a blast, and I think it was I think I preferred, even though last year I had way more celebrities and stuff, I think I preferred this year's because I'm a retail shopper. I'm there for the retail. And that was like the emphasis, and everybody loved the retail show floor, and it was so fun. And I just love the chaos of the butt to balls of being on the show floor. So I love the chaos, Archie. So
like it is crazy. I don't know about like it. I don't. That
bro, I was out there.
That's a crazy statement. I would have been like, I think you would have liked it next year when there's not too many people there. But
well, it's nice if people get off the show floor and let me have my space. But there's just something about the chaos of it all that I think I thrive in. I'm like the type of guy who like loves Black Friday shopping back when it was like chaotic. This is like, Archie, I used to love it. I used to love it. I would create maps and shit and like time all my. I was like a Black Friday aficionado. You know, that was like my major thing. But now Black Friday's like dead. It's like the sales start so early. They're online too. Like you don't even need to do Black Friday anymore.
Yeah,
but back in the day, I used to really love it.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. Now that we're on the subject, which fandom smells worse? Comic book fans or anime fans? Who smells the rankest?
That's just crazy, Archie. It smells worse. Damn, that's a tight call. Genuinely, this is genuine from the bottom of my heart. I do think that comic book fans smell worse. I do. I think that there's a little more of a disconnect. I think that anime fans have grown. They have realized the necessity to shower because they are very interested in the opposite sex. And I think that because of that, they've learned. They're starting to learn and evolve. Anime fans are learning and evolving. Comic book fans are stuck in the past, bro. They can't get that Riz all the way up. So they're struggling. So I will give it to anime fans. I think anime fans smell a little better. Just a little bit.
I'm gonna enjoy editing this short. This is gonna be crazy. Anyways, man, I actually did not expect that. Because
really?
Look, when I went to DreamCon, right? Man, the first day smell was crazy.
It was raunchy. Well, it's hot as hell in Texas, bro.
Oh, that's true. It is hot as hell. That's true.
Why I don't know why it needs to be 100 degrees for 40 days straight. And so everyone's sweating their balls off. And yeah, that's crazy. So I can only imagine the smell was probably.
I felt so bad.
Probably something different.
The cosplayers were just rank and they couldn't do anything about it. I was like, and whenever RJ and Ina told me that, oh no, in Anime Expo it was the people not in cosplay that smelled bad. I'm like, really? Really? Because when I experienced at DreamCon, it was the cosplayers that smelled rank, and it was like some of them. It's not their fault because it's like you're sweating balls out there, you know. What I mean? But it's like
different. Us over here in Texas, it's hot because it's hot. At least in LA they have a little bit of that breeze. I don't know, man. It's a little cooler around those parts, so I don't know. But I think the anime fans are learning. We're evolving. Anime fans are evolving. We're changing for the better. We're getting there.
So. I hope so, man. Like for real. I'm just like, please, like, can someone bring like that dry shower spray like everywhere? Just like do that every like couple of hours. Like, come on, guys.
Hit everyone.
Yeah, please
just hit them with it.
Just please. Man. Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
Okay. There is one more thing I do want to talk about before we wrap things up, and that is the UAP, aka the Uncensored podcast or Uncensored Anime Podcast. I do enjoy all your guys' dynamic with each other. I know you're still. I mean, of course, you guys are all still friends. Kenny and David and all them. Are you guys? You guys are still like doing it, right?
Listen, Archie. Okay, so listen. It's very simple. Okay, in March of this year, Kenny and David both got into relationships. And it has become so difficult to get these mothers together to actually do this damn podcast.
You can't even do just a quick like Zoom call.
They're always with their girlfriends, and that's all they want to do all the time. They're so in love, oh my God, Jerry, we just want to spend all the time with our girlfriends, blah blah blah. So we're on what I would call a hiatus until we kind of get everything settled out. And are able to kind of reform and come back with like a season. This will be kind of like our season 4 is what I'll call it, because I think we're going to make a pretty substantial comeback once the two of them figure out their time when they're actually free and are able to make some time to make it happen. We've also just been investing a little bit in some new equipment and some new methods with some stuff we want to play with to make it look a little better. I think that, we started it during the pandemic using literally Discord and we just used what we had. And slowly we've made it to where now it's an in-person podcast. We started doing fully in person when we did like season 3. So we've always been meeting up and setting cameras up and all the stuff. So it takes a little bit more effort. And I'm sure you guys have learned the same thing. Doing a virtual podcast, it feels a lot less time consuming. But then the moment you start to have to set a setup and have, all this stuff,
it's a lot. Yeah.
We do have a couple backlog episodes that we just haven't been able to put together. And it's mainly because over the last couple months, we've mainly been doing live shows. So we have a live show from Waifu Expo. We have a live show from KamehaCon and a live show from Fan Expo Dallas that we haven't posted. And I'm kind of planning to kind of lump those. Those are going to kind of be my lump, like when the new season starts. Those are going to kind of be my like kickoff episodes. We'll have these 3 live shows to kind of kick off this new era of us. So I've been doing some new editing techniques, playing around with those because I want those episodes to look really nice. We did, a dual camera setup. We did better audio setups for those ones. So we've been playing with like just how that's going to look. But the live shows have been such a blast. And I noticed, you did the DreamCon live show with the rest of them? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you guys got the same vibe. It's just such a joy to sit out and do fun stuff with people in the live show environment. And so me, Kenny, and David have a couple more live shows planned for the back half of this year here in Dallas. So we'll definitely try to announce those more promptly. We have an issue of not telling anyone that we're doing them, so people just don't know that follow us. So, but we're going to try to do a lot more of those here in Dallas, especially just because, what's the harm of doing one here in Dallas when we can just show up in it? But we've had such a good time. All the conventions that we've been able to be at, Fan Expo, Waifu, and KamehaCon have been so welcoming to us and given us so much to let us come and do those panels. And that has just been a blast. So yeah, we have those 3 episodes that exist. They exist. They're just not online yet. So there is a little bit coming. And I think the biggest thing is, as we sort of pivot and I think we're just pivoting too, just kind of finding our own step. The only real like consistent thing we used to do was our first episode reactions to each seasonal show. We would do our 13 reactions. So I think as we pivot, we want to kind of come to find some more direction too. We've interviewed a lot of miscellaneous people too in the past. We interviewed some voice actors. We've interviewed some creatives. We've interviewed some, people who make stuff online. And we want to kind of lean into that more too. I think we really enjoyed interviewing people. So that's kind of a next wave of what we're trying to do with that content as well. But the podcast will be back. It is just on I'm calling it a girlfriend hiatus is what we've been on. A girlfriend hiatus while David and Kenny figure out just how, once they break up with their girlfriends, Archie, no, I'm joking.
That is crazy. Oh my God. That is crazy.
No, they won't. I think that they like these ones, I think. So we'll see how it goes.
Ones. Okay.
Yeah. They've been in and out of relationships. And but I believe in them. But yes, Kenny, Kenny and I are brothers, so
actually, did not know that.
We talk every day. So that's my little brother. So we talk every day. And then David and Kenny are roommates. So they live together. So there's a lot, a lot of fun stuff going on there. So UAP has been a joy to me though. And I think that even if, we've stayed kind of small, the traction that we have gotten and some of the fans who have interacted with us have just been so wonderful. And I think that's why we've kept doing it as long as we did, honestly, because if we had just, been putting it into the ether and not gotten anything at all, I think it would have been tough. But we're lucky that we've had kind of a small group of committed fans that have kept up with us. And that's been really fun for us because, it's hard. YouTube's hard, to be honest. It's not easy. And you guys know it's just not easy. And it's not, the space is so huge and you feel like a small fish in a large pond, all the time. So it's tough to figure out like where your niche is and finding out what you do. And that's where, and I do think I put a lot more effort into my wife and I's videos, and that's mainly because our channel's monetized, my wife and I's channel.
Yeah.
So I think we started kind of putting more time and effort into that. That's a whole nother, element. Manga tubing was blowing up, and I think that's how we were able to find a better audience on that side. Because we were just really into building our manga collection up really heavy. So I don't know where my content creation goes after this because I've kind of honestly the last 2 or 3 months, I've kind of taken my own little break just because I haven't really been posting I post on Twitter pretty much exclusively now.
Basically,
like I'm always on Twitter, but other than that, I've kind of stepped away just to give myself some time and space to recalibrate what I want to do when I come back and make content. But I don't think I'll be away from it for long. I haven't been able to stay away for the last 5 years, so I'm just going to keep. So I'm sure I'll keep making stuff.
I'm sure.
But it's just about what that looks like going forward. But yeah, podcast is just on a girlfriend hiatus.
I'm sure. And man, hey, I get it though. When you start, it's like you got no time for anything else for a bit. I'm just like, oh
yeah. Oh yeah, when you first get in a relationship, right? like there's you got to be committed, right?
Right. You gotta
these boys, they're trying to lock it down. They're trying to get married too. They're trying to join us.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it takes. Hey, I've been with my wife for 8 years altogether, and it's like
takes a lot.
It's a lot. It's a ride for sure. And
Absolutely,
I'm glad she let me like kind of have my own thing going on, as long as it doesn't interfere with like our relationship. Like she's cool with it. It's just she's like, as long as we have our time,
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. We love to see
it's a little harder for me because my wife isn't an anime fan like that.
Oh really?
Yeah, so she's I would like to call her like a super casual, where like
wow.
She's gotten a little more into it, but like she doesn't really care for it like that. Like that
makes sense.
She grew up with Sailor Moon. She's watched the two most casual shows you could watch right now, which is Demon Slayer and My Hero.
Wow, what a casual.
Super casual. She's actually seen Haikyuu and Kuroko's Basketball, which is interesting.
Those are good.
Yeah, so
I support it.
Yeah, I mean she's into it. Just like she's like, it's like popular right now. All right, I guess I'll watch that.
Right.
Or whatever. So
that's funny. Hey, well, that doesn't mean anything though. I think that's a big part of it. Also, is like, I am just in a weird situation where my wife is just as big of a weeb as I am. So like, that's just how it happened. But and my wife is like a massive video gamer. Gamer. I'm not a gamer. I don't really play games. Probably one of the weirdest things, but she's like a major serious gamer, like plays all the big releases, plays all these games. She's majorly into just anything fantasy based, whether it's like Elden Ring, Skyrim, The Witcher. These are my wife's like favorite things, and she'll spend hours and hours and hours on these games. And that's my whole approach to it has always been like, I support her and love her, and whatever she's into. Like, if she wants to spend 100 hours on God of War, so be it. And that's what I love to see. I think that it's just so good to, to give your partner that love and support for their passions, man. So my wife's a huge gamer. She games circles around some of these boys. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything you could take out of this recording session, the reason why you don't have a wife is not because you are a weeb. That's being a weeb is not the reason why you're not married. So
no. Yeah, you can be a weeb, you can be a gamer. There are all sorts of people out there. You just got to find your people and find the people that care about the same stuff you do. So,
and at least in my case, your partner doesn't have to be in that fandom to love you.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
There you go. Hey,
100%.
It might be just you. The reason why
you're gonna tell him, Archie.
Oh man, Jerry, this has been a great recording, man. Do you have anything you want to plug, or just any announcements you want to make right now?
I mean, the only thing I'll say, obviously, if people want, go follow all three of my channels. I have the Uncensored Anime Podcast, My Waifu and Me, and then Jerry's Got Pops. All three of them are sort of my brainchild, brain children. So obviously I'm featured on all three. But if you're into those, obviously my Waifu and Me is focused on manga collecting and collectibles. So if you're into that, go for it. If you're into more Funko Pops, follow me on Jerry's Got Pops. I don't post YouTube anymore, but honestly, my personal Twitter is still Jerry's Got Pops, but I really post about manga, anime, pops, everything. I really just post everything on that one because that's just my personal one. It needs a name change, to be honest, because it's really not just about pops anymore. But then obviously the Uncensored Anime Podcast, which my Waifu and Me and the Uncensored Anime Podcast will probably be making pretty major comebacks by the end of this year, where we'll be posting. My Waifu and Me will probably go back to posting weekly content at some point. We've also taken a break, mainly because of my wife's health. My wife just had a pretty big health scare late last year, early this year. So she's been recovering and kind of taking her time and just isn't ready to be back like on camera all the way just yet. So once she's kind of back in the mood for it, that content will probably come back as well. And I do expect it to. I think she really is working her way up to being back in front of the camera, which I know for some people it's tough. Like being on the camera can be a draining experience for some. So expect content on both those channels. Jerry's Got Pops. I don't know what I'm going to do with that YouTube channel. It exists. I haven't posted Funko Pop content in like 3 years on there.
Rebrand it again.
Maybe I'll abandon it. Maybe I'll rebrand it. Maybe I'll do something different with it. People have always really wanted me to do solo anime content, and it's something I've played with the idea of. I think I'm more passionate about doing it with a group and people that I love. So, but everyone's like, Jerry, you need to do like deep dives or like, essays and stuff like that. And I'm like, we'll see. I think I just need to find the right passion for it if I want to do it. So the day might come. But for now, follow me on all 3 of those. And as well, be on the lookout on those pages because, like I said, there are more UAP live shows that'll be in the Dallas area probably by the end of the year. So if you're going to cons here in the Dallas area, you might run into us. But we're going to try to outreach a little bit. We might look at some Austin and Houston area cons as well to potentially hit, or maybe even Oklahoma City. But we don't know how far we're really willing to travel to do these because we're not making money off of them. So depends on what we're vibing on. So if you're in the area, be on the lookout for that. Other than that, just keep in touch. I like to just stay connected using my socials and just post things that make me happy and excited. So shout out to all of Archie's fans and friends. And he's a wonderful host and a wonderful, you're over here on my side.
Oh, well,
he's been a great moot to connect with over Twitter and over social media. So grateful to him and the Flow and all his zone of people. They're the best. And grateful that you asked me to be on because it was a blast. And I love chatting with you, Archie. Yeah.
Of course. I'm just like, man, I need someone that knows what it's like to have a wife on here, man. Like, shoot, there are too many single guys I know. I'm like, come on, guys.
We're gonna inspire a whole new generation to go get married.
No, please, please. Some of you guys need that girl, that woman that balances you out. Trust me. Some of you guys go wild without them. I'm not gonna lie. Myself included. Low key.
Right.
She's not here, and I'm actually surprised I'm not wilding out right now, which is great. Oh man.
Whatever. That's
anyway,
great.
Guys,
Thanks, Archie.
Thank you for watching, man. Oh yeah, of course. And thank you for coming. Honestly, like
absolutely.
Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, check out all of Jerry's stuff. I'll put them in the description down below, and I'm gonna catch you guys later.